Welcome to this SAP NetWeaver Gateway tutorial showing you how to use the Service Builder. In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to import an XML metadata file on which you create your data model. In our example, we're looking at a metadata file dealing with sales orders. Before we can import our XML metadata file for sales order, the first step we need to perform is create a project. At the top, you can see various buttons. We can create a project, we can open existing projects, and you can toggle between edit and display. First of all, I'm going to choose create project. I'm going to enter a name for our project. I'm going to enter a description. I'm going to choose our generation strategy that dictates how our runtime artifacts are to be generated. This is according to the standard SAP generation strategy, and I'm going to create the project as a local object. You can see we have a confirmation message to indicate that the project has been created. On the left, you can see our newly created project with 4 standard folders: Data Model, Service Implementation, Runtime Artifacts, and Service Maintenance. The sequence of these folders reflects the development process. This completes the Create Project step, so I'm going to save our data. Now that we've created our new Service Builder project, we're in a position to import our XML metadata file as a data model. So I go to the highest folder in the project, called Data Model. I right-click and choose Import Data Model from File. Here I have my XML metadata file on sales orders, so I simply double-click, and it's imported into our Data Model folder within the project, and various confirmation messages are displayed. I can expand the Data Model folder, and I can see the entity type, sales order, has been imported. I can double click here, and this opens the mass maintenance area. This is where we can maintain and edit various different properties for our entity types. This completes the second step, import data file. So I'm going to save the data. The third step we need to perform is generate the service. To do this, you need to press the Generate Runtime Objects button. This displays the model and service definition pop-up. All the entries you can see here are pre-filled. You can see the name of the model provider classes, together with the data provider class names, and you can also see the entries for the service registration. The corresponding base classes contain generated code only. The other 2 may contain developer extension coding. The values are fine in this case, so I simply choose OK. I'd like to generate within the local objects, so again I press Local Objects. This starts the generation process. Now I can see that the generation process has been finished successfully. You can see a list of confirmation messages on the right. In particular, you can see the creation of the different generated artifacts. This completes step 3, generate the service. Now that I've generated the runtime artifacts, we can look at them in the folder Runtime Artifacts. These are the artifacts that were generated in the previous step. You can double-click on the Runtime Artifacts folder to look at them in more detail. Here you can see the generated artifact type, its program ID, object type, and object name, for example. Now that we've generated our service, the next step is registering our service. To do this, I need to double-click on the Service Maintenance folder. Here I can see a list of possible SAP NetWeaver Gateway Hub systems where I can register this newly created service. At the moment, you can see in the registration status column that none of the systems have been registered with this service. I'm going to select the system which I want to register my service and choose the Register push button. I choose Local, System Alias. In the Add Service dialog box, the pre-filled values here are fine, so I just need to enter the missing package name. I enter $TMP and press Continue. This brings us back to the service maintenance view, and the registration status of the system has now been set to green. This indicates that the service has been registered successfully. Now that the service has been registered, I can test that the service is working correctly. To do this, I choose Maintain. This calls the Activate and Maintain Services transaction. This transaction provides functions to view an error log and explore the service, for example. This time we want to choose Explore Service. This enables us to request the service document from the service. You can see this in the scenario, Get Service Document. This option is selected by default. I choose Execute, and the metadata information is returned successfully. It lists exactly the sales orders modeled in the Gateway Service Builder, the ones you can see in the Data Model folder. Now that I've verified that the metadata returned by the service is correct, I can go one step back, return to the Service Explorer, and this time I choose the Get Entity Set scenario. This time I want to see the actual data. I press Execute. Our service only provides the sales orders, and this is the only one that you can see here as an entity set. I select this entity set and choose Execute once more. This time you can see we've received an error message. This informs us that the corresponding method within the data provider class has not yet been implemented. This is correct and can be expected since we have not yet performed this step. The next step in the development process is service implementation. In this step, I'm going to show you exactly how you need to proceed to implement the data provider class. I select the Service Implementation folder, double-click, and here I can see the sales order for this service. I expand the node, and I can see the corresponding operations. We have Create, Delete, Get Entity Read, Get Entity Set Query, and Update. In this example, I'm going to be looking at the Get Entity Set Query operation. I select this operation, right-click, and choose Go to ABAP Workbench. This takes us to the SE80 transaction. Now you can see the information for the data provider class for the sales order. I can now perform some manual coding. I select the inherited method I want to change, sales orders get entity set. I right-click and I choose Redefine. I can now copy and paste some example code by way of which I can use an existing BAPI to retrieve sales orders. I paste it into the right section, and once I'm happy I can choose Check the Syntax. No syntax errors were found, and so I activate the new source code. This completes the implementation step, so I can simply navigate back to the Service Builder using the back button. Back in the Service Builder, I now want to make sure that the implementation is correct. So I go to the Service Maintenance folder. I make sure that the relevant system is selected, and I choose Maintain. In the Activate and Maintain Service transaction, I choose Explore Service. Again, under Scenario, I need to choose Get Entity Sets and choose Execute. We have Sales Order, the only entity set in our service, and I choose Execute. This invokes the implemented method and I can see in the HTTP response the sales orders that have been retrieved from the BAPI that were used in our code template. This concludes your SAP NetWeaver Gateway Service Builder tutorial. I have shown you how to create a project, import an XML file, generate a service, register and maintain your service, and also implement this service. I hope you've enjoyed watching.